Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Genesis chapter 24. This chapter, well, it tells a truly remarkable story. It's about a journey with a very specific mission: finding a wife for Isaac, Abraham's son.
Hmm.
What makes it so compelling, I think, is how it weaves together, deliberate human effort, clear faith, and this striking series of events that just seem well guided.
Absolutely. It's a narrative that's just packed with intention. You see it right from Abraham's initial charge, then the servant's prayer at the well,
Yeah.
Rebekah's immediate response, and all the decisive actions that follow. It's way more than just a simple arranged marriage story.
Right. So we start with Abraham. He's described as old, blessed in every way, and he calls his most trusted servant, the one in charge of basically everything he owns.
Yeah, his chief steward.
And he gives him this directive. It's steeped in both cultural practice and deep spiritual conviction.
Right. He makes the servant swear this really weighty oath.
Mm.
And that detail about putting the hand under the thigh, that's significant. It's an ancient, incredibly solemn gesture. It kind of invokes the whole idea of future lineage, the promise God gave Abraham, and the oath itself. Very clear. Do not take a wife for Isaac from the local Canaanites. No. Go back to Abraham's homeland, to his relatives, find a wife there. This wasn't just about, geography. It was really about preserving a distinct identity, a lineage tied directly to Abraham's covenant with God.
And the servant, well, he's immediately practical. He asks the obvious question, doesn't he? What if the woman won't come back with me?
Exactly. And Abraham's response here is key. He's absolute. Make sure, he says, you don't take my son back there.
Right.
Isaac has to stay in the promised land.
Right.
But then he adds this powerful statement of faith. He says, the Lord, the God who called him out and promised this land, will send his angel ahead of you, basically, to make the mission successful.
Wow.
But he also adds a kind of pragmatic release. He frees the servant from the oath if the woman refuses to return. The main thing is not taking Isaac back.
Got it. So the servant takes 10 camels, loads them up with all kinds of good things from Abraham, which implies, significant wealth and provisions.
Serious resources, yeah.
And he heads off towards Aram Naharim, to the region where Abraham's relatives lived.
Well,
It's a long journey.
a very long journey. And he reaches a town near Nohor. He arrives at this crucial spot, the well outside the town.
Yep.
And the timing is perfect, late afternoon, early evening, exactly when the women of the town would come out to draw water.
Okay.
He has his camels kneel down there, which itself is a sign, like he's settling in, preparing for what might be a wait.
And this is where his planning meets his faith, right? He
Yeah.
prays.
Yes.
He appeals to the Lord, the God of his master Abraham, asking for success and kindness, he said. But he doesn't just ask for vague help. He proposes this incredibly specific, almost audacious sign.
It really is audacious. He basically says, okay, I'll stand here. When I ask a young woman for a drink, if she not only says yes, but also says, hey, I'll water your camels too, that will be the one. That's the sign.
And watering 10 camels, that's not trivial.
Not at all. Watering one person is just basic hospitality. But 10 camels, after a long trip, they can drink a lot, maybe 20, 30 gallons each, really fast.
Wow.
So this means multiple trips back and forth to the well with heavy water jars. It's a huge amount of work. It goes way beyond politeness.
So he's asking for a sign of exceptional character, generosity, willingness to serve.
Exactly. Tied directly to God showing him the way.
And what happens, it's amazing. The text says, before he'd even finished praying.
Just like that, Rebekah appears, jar on her shoulder, described as very beautiful, and a virgin. She goes down to the spring, fills her jar, comes back up. The servant hurries over to meet her and just asks simply, please give me a little water from your jar.
And her response, immediate. Drink, my lord. She quickly lowers her jar, standard hospitality. But then...
Then comes the sign, exactly as he prayed. She says, I'll draw water for your camels too until they have finished drinking.
Unbelievable.
And she doesn't hesitate. Empties her jar into the trough, runs back to the well again and again, drawing water until all 10 camels have had enough. It's just this remarkable demonstration of immediate, selfless effort.
And while she's doing all this hard work, the servant is just watching. The text says he watched her intently without saying a word.
Yeah, you can imagine him just standing there thinking, is this really happening? Is this improbable, specific sign actually unfolding right now? He's observing, confirming.
And once the camels are done, his observation turns to action. He takes out gifts.
Right. A gold nose ring weighing a beka and 2 gold bracelets weighing 10 shekels.
Okay, so what does that mean in practical terms? A beka is half a shekel. So a half shekel nose ring, 10 shekels of gold for the bracelets.
And the shekel back then was a unit of weight, maybe around 11 or 12 grams. So 10 shekels is like 110, 120 grams of gold, plus the nose ring.
So these aren't just little trinkets.
Definitely not. These were substantial gifts, probably worth a considerable amount even today.
Yeah.
It shows Abraham's wealth, yes, but also the seriousness of this whole mission.
Yeah.
They're like immediate tokens of favor, of intent.
He gives her these gifts and then asks the crucial questions. Whose daughter are you? And is there room in your father's house for us to stay?
And she gives the perfect answer, confirms her lineage. Daughter of Bethuel, who is the son of Milcah, who was married to Abraham's brother Nahor.
Wow. So not only did she fulfill the incredibly specific sign,
but she's from the exact branch of the family Abraham sent him to find. It's stunning. And she also says, yeah, plenty of room, straw, fodder, everything.
this has to be the moment of ultimate confirmation for the servant.
Absolutely. The sign fulfilled, the right family, it's undeniable. And
Well,
his reaction is immediate and profound. He bows down and worships the Lord, praises God for his kindness, his faithfulness to Abraham for leading him so directly.
so Rebecca runs home, obviously excited, tells her family everything that happened.
And her brother Laban's reaction is quite telling, isn't it?
Yeah.
He sees the gifts on his sister, that nose ring, those heavy gold bracelets, and he hears her story. He immediately rushes out to the well, finds the servant, and his fierce words are basically, "Come on in, you who are blessed by the Lord."
So he connects the dots. The wealth, the story.
Exactly. He sees the blessing, likely represented by the gold, hears the account, and invites him in, offering full hospitality.
So the servant's brought in, the camels are taken care of, food's prepared. But when the food is served, the servant refuses. He says, "I will not eat until I've told my business."
Shows his focus, right? The urgency of the mission is paramount. Nothing else matters until this is settled.
So he lays it all out for Laban and Bethuel, Rebekah's father.
Yeah.
He starts with Abraham, his status, his wealth, the miracle birth of Isaac.
He carefully explains the solemn oath, the specific conditions. No Canaanite wife, only one from Abraham's family, and critically, Isaac must stay in Canaan.
Right. He even recounts his own practical question, what if she won't come? And Abraham's absolute trust that God's angel would lead the way.
Then he vividly describes arriving at the well that very day, recounting the precise details of the sign he prayed for the request for a drink, followed by the offer to water the camels. That was the identifier.
He really emphasizes the specificity.
He does. And he stresses how, before he even finished praying, Rebecca appeared, how she immediately gave him a drink, and then, crucially, how she volunteered and then watered all 10 of his camels, validating the sign completely.
He tells them he confirmed her identity, gave her the gifts, and then immediately bowed down and worshipped God for guiding him so directly right to his master's own family.
Yeah. And then he puts it to them directly. Basically says, look, here's the story, here's the sign, here's the family connection. If you're going to show kindness and faithfulness to my master, tell me. If not, tell me that too, so I know what to do. He lays it all out and asks for their response.
And the response is just powerful and decisive. Laban and Bethuel answered together.
They say, "This is from the Lord. We cannot say anything to you, either bad or good. Here is Rebekah. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken."
Wow. They see it too. The convergence of events, the specific sign, the servant's testimony. They conclude this isn't just chance, it's divine direction.
Explicitly, this is from the Lord.
Hearing that confirmation, Abraham's servant worships again, just bows right down to the ground before the Lord.
Then he brings out more gifts, significant gifts for Rebekah, jewelry of silver and gold, clothing and costly gifts for her mother and brother too, solidifying the whole agreement.
They finally eat and drink and rest, but the very next morning, the servant is ready to go. Mission accomplished. Time to head back.
Right. He says, "Send me away to my master," but Laban and the mother, understandably, are like, "Whoa, hang on, let her stay with us for, about 10 days.
Yeah, give them some time to say goodbye. Seems reasonable.
But the servant is insistent. He feels the momentum, the success granted by God. He says, "Do not detain me. Now that the Lord has granted success to my journey, send me away."
He doesn't want to risk losing that momentum.
Exactly. So they decide to do something interesting. They say, "Let's call Rebekah and ask her." They give her agency in this huge life decision.
And they ask her point blank, will you go with this man?
Her answer is incredibly simple, clear, and decisive. "I will go." Just like that. She embraces this path that's been laid out.
It's quite a moment. So with her decision made, they send her off, her and her nurse, who travels with her, along with the servant and his men.
And they give Rebekah this traditional, really potent blessing as she leaves. It's about fertility and power. Our sister, will you increase to thousands upon thousands? May your offspring possess the gates of those who hate them.
A powerful blessing for the future matriarch.
Meanwhile, back in Canaan, the focus shifts to Isaac. He's living in the Negev. One evening, he goes out into the field. The text says, maybe to meditate, maybe to pray. He looks up.
And sees camels approaching.
At that same moment, Rebekah looks up and sees Isaac from a distance. She asks the servant who it is. When he says, "It is my master," she gets down from her camel.
An act of respect.
Yes. And then she takes her veil and covers herself. Perhaps customary politeness? Perhaps signifying her transition, preparing to meet her future husband?
The servant then fills Isaac in, recounts the whole amazing story, everything he'd done, how God led him, how he found Rebekah.
And the story concludes, just as Abraham hoped, just as the servant worked for, and just as, seemingly, God orchestrated, Isaac brings Rebekah into the tent that had belonged to his mother, Sarah.
A really symbolic act, right? Welcoming her into the family lineage, the household leadership role.
Exactly. He marries her. And the text explicitly notes he loved her. And it adds that really poignant detail. Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Her arrival brought healing for that loss.
So what does this all mean? We follow the servant's meticulously guided journey, right? We saw the specific sign at the well fulfilled, witnessed Rebekah's swift, decisive action, and then the eventual union with Isaac.
Yeah, it's a story just packed with fascinating details. You've got the ancient oath ritual, the tangible weight of the gift showing seriousness, Rebekah's surprising, "I will go," the specific blessing she receives.
What's really striking, though, is this blend. You have detailed human effort, the servant's specific prayer, his careful reporting of events, the whole family negotiation.
Careful planning and execution.
But alongside that, there's this clear, powerful conviction running through the whole narrative that this entire process was directed by a higher power, right from Abraham's initial instruction and his faith in God's angel.
To the servant's experience at the well, and then Laban and Bethuel's own declaration, "This is from the Lord." It's presented as human intention and divine purpose working completely in tandem.
It really raises an important question, doesn't it? When we look at how significant life decisions unfold, maybe even in our own lives, how do we discern that line? The line between our own intentional actions, our planning, our efforts, and trusting in a path that feels, well, guided.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Is it just about preparation, meeting opportunity? The
Yeah.
servant was prepared, the opportunity arose. Or is there something else entirely going on? How do we know when it's our striving versus something more?
Definitely something to think about as you go about your day.